Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Metzia, pages 4 through 10. Dalet 4. Amar Rav Chisda, HaKofer b'milveh kasher le'edus. If a person denies having received a loan, and they did so falsely. Now we're not talking about necessarily under oath. We're talking about someone who just denied having been given a loan. It wasn't true. That person remains kosher for testimony. However, if he denied having been given a deposit to be a shomer, pasol edus, he is not kosher for testimony. Now, what's the difference between a falsehood regarding a loan and a falsehood regarding a deposit? Either way, the guy seems to be dishonest, and the veracity of his testimony would seem to be called into question. The answer is because if a person says, I didn't get the loan, it may very well be they will at some point admit to it. It's just now they don't have the cash to pay back because milveh lehotza nitna, the coins given over, the dollar bills given over for the sake of a loan, were meant to be spent. And it's expected that for a little while, a person will not have the cash to pay it back. They'll have to recover the cash at some point and then pay it back. However, a pikadon, a deposit, was never supposed to be touched. It should at no point in time be out of the guy's possession. The fact that he denies it means there's something really wrong here, and that's why he's pasul le'edut. Daf 5. Shvuazu, this oath that is imposed in the first Mishnah Bava Metzia regarding the case of Shnai Mochas and Betalis, of two guys grabbing at the talis, Takanas Chacham, it's an enactment of the sages. Shelo yehei kol echad ve'echad holech v'tokef b'talisa shel chaveiro v'yomer shalihu. Nobody, it shouldn't be the case that everyone's going around grabbing at somebody else's garment and saying it's mine, because that in fact could happen. If it was so easy to get something that doesn't belong to you by simply grabbing at it and making assertions, the world would not be a very good place. So by imposing an oath, it's unlikely that the person would do that illegitimately. And if you wanted to say, well, if they're going to be dishonest regarding finances, they might be dishonest regarding oaths. So the Gemara says, Lo amrina migud mechashta monachashta shvua. Don't say that. Just because a person might be suspected of being dishonest when it comes to cash, it doesn't mean they would lie under oath. That already is a level of transgression that they wouldn't go to. Vav 6. Takva Kohen l'safek bechor. What happens if there's a doubtful bechor, which the owner of the bechor need not remit to the Kohen because it's not definitely a bechor, but this Kohen came and grabbed it. Ein motzino tomiyado. We do not extract it from his hands. There's no clawback mechanism here. The katani hamotzi mechaver lavaraya, because as a general rule we say, if you want to extract something of value from your fellow, you have the burden of proof is on you doing the extracting. So that's why the Kohen shouldn't have had it in the first place. But once he has it, now the burden is on the original owner of the Bechor to try to get it back. And since he can't prove it, then nothing happens. The Kohen holds on to it. Zayin 7. Amar Rav Nachman. Kol mamon shen yachol lotziv dayanim hekdesh and hekdesh. Any money that can't be recovered by litigation, by judicial means, well, that money isn't really in your possession anymore. You don't have access to it. You can't even use the court system to get access to it. If you to try to make that possession into hekdesh, to sanctify it, to consecrate it, your words have no value, and the item does not become hekdesh. 8. Chet. Ilo amar l'shlucho say v'ganovli v'ganav pater. If someone says to his emissary, his agent, go out and steal from me, and the guy goes ahead and steals, the sender is exempt. Only the active party in that case of theft is liable. V'shutvin sheganu chayavim. However, if partners, co-conspirators, were to steal, then even the passive partner in this conspiracy is liable for the theft. My time, why is this true? Mishum de'arinan migu de'zachi lenafshe zachinami lechavre. We say that just as the guy who grabs the item in the moment of thievery is acquiring a portion of it for himself, he's also acquiring a portion of it for the person who he's in cahoots with. And that's why the passive co-conspirator also has liability in the case of theft. 9. Hayarochev al gabi behema. What happens if you're riding on an animal? Riding a donkey, riding a camel. And you see there's a lost article on the floor somewhere. V'amar lachavero, and you tell your fellow who's off the donkey, off the camel, and is on his own 2 feet, Tanali, give that item to me. Nitala. And then what happens? The guy picks it up, and says, "V'amar ani zachiti ba." The man who picks it up says, "I acquired it for myself. I'm not getting it for you." Zachaba. Well, the man who picked it up, it's his. He owns it. Despite the fact that there was instructions or encouragement from the guy on the camel or the donkey to pick it up, the guy who actually grabs it, he gets to keep it. However, if the fellow who picked it up gives it to the other person on the camel or on the donkey, and then, after having already remitted it to the guy who gave him instructions, he says, "You know what? Actually, I picked it up for myself, and I want to keep it for myself." Lo amar klum. He has said nothing. His words mean nothing. It's already lost as far as he's concerned. He's given it over to the guy and the animal, and it's a done deal. Daf Yud. Ra'at Metzia v'nafal aleha. What happens if you see a lost article and you jump on it, you fall on it? Uba'acher v'hechazik ba, and someone else comes along and grabs it and takes physical possession of it in hand. Zeh shehechazik ba, the one who grabbed it, zacha ba, he's the one who gets to keep it. Why? Because the act of being machazik, grabbing onto it, that has halachic weight, as opposed to simply falling on something, which is not a legitimately recognized method of acquisition. Now, for our American audience here, this is actually dissimilar to, let's say, football, American football. In American football, if there's a fumble, if the ball is loose on the field, then if someone were to fall on it and cover it with his body, and then be tackled by another player, so the fact that he fell on it is good enough. If it were then to be extracted by another player, the play is over, and the guy who tried to grab it doesn't matter. One who fell on it is one who matters. But in the halacha is not football, not sports. In the halacha, merely falling on it, nafal aleha, doesn't have any legal validity. Everyone have a great week.